Hello everyone, and welcome to Straight Chilling. Each week we watch and review a horror film for your entertainment. You can send all questions and comments to straightchillingpodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to keep chilling.
Yeah, we straight chillin', serial killing. 5 cold feelings on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star ratings from the floor to the ceiling. If you get your 1 star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ, all the 1s and 2s. By the name of someone, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all over 2. And prepare to hear the legend of the Straight Chillin' crew.
What up, nerds, and welcome to another Universal episode of Straight Chilling. My name is Bob, and I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 260, recorded Tuesday, March 31st, 2020. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the winner of the March poll pick, which was Creature from the Black Lagoon. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show tonight. First up, calling in from Astoria, Oregon, we got our boy, Randy Gandy G. Landy. What's up, man? No, that would be from the wrong Universal monster movie.
No, man, we're in the dark universe right now, bro.
Turns out it only stayed dark for one movie, and then they canceled it. Canceled the whole universe.
Right the fuck up.
Brian,
that universe got canceled.
The sun came out real fucking quick. Thank you, Tom Cruise's The Mummy. Last but not least, calling in from Southern Korea, we got our boy Soju. What's up, man?
What up? It's Sheba.
Is this the point in the podcast where we all turn our volume down?
Soju exotic, baby.
Soju exotic. Get the fuck out of
the
here.
horror king. Here we go.
Is this what you're gonna? Is this when you announce your presidential bid?
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit!
Soju exotic for president. Here we go.
Here, kitty.
Running on that libertarian South Korean ticket.
It's a very niche community.
Yeah.
Very niche.
Good lord, man! You need to have way more earrings to have the title.
I
need a lot of lip
build
sync
up my
music
collection.
videos.
You got to get that. You got to get that eyebrow piercing back, and you got to have it barely hanging on for dear life. That's what you got.
Let me ask you this:
I need to get a quick tan too.
Spray tan? You need a spray tan?
I might know a president that could hook you up.
He's not going to help the competition like that. The competition.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. Art of the deal.
Happen. Yes, indeed. You know, this is our 260th show, and it dawned on me. We had like a brief hiatus after we first started doing the show. We released like 62 episodes and took a couple months off, and then we came back. And 2 more episodes, we will have done 200 straight shows in 200 weeks. Haven't missed a week since we got the show back. Not to mention all the bonus content. So,
nobody's brought us up on charges yet. I can't believe this shit.
We're still doing it.
This pirate radio is rolling on like nothing's happening.
200. I've done more episodes in Korea than I did in the States. Chew on that.
That's true.
I won't chew on it.
Chew on it.
I'm not going to. I'm going to swallow it whole.
That is blowing my mind a little bit, but yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So thanks for everybody. If you've been listening to us for a while, or if you just found us, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. Let's handle a little bit of housekeeping real quick. So the April poll pick closes here in just a few hours, and I think it's safe to say that upon the time of this recording, Alien is definitely going to win that. So we'll be talking about Alien.
Damn, bro. You're really calling your shots now.
I'm doing it. I'm feeling bold.
Yeah. Alien. Should we go ahead and announce the next poll pick since it's like a day? Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's fucking do it.
Be prepared to be bedazzled.
So,
prepared.
If you do support us on Patreon at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're going to talk about this May. So the theme for the May poll pick is going to be horror comedy. We figured, given the state of affairs throughout the world, maybe a little bit of levity could help everybody out. So we're talking about some funny shit. The 3 movies that you can vote between are going to be Shaun of the Dead, Young Frankenstein, and Tucker and Dale vs. Evil.
That's stacked goddamn list.
Yes.
Those are some good comedies. Good jokes in there. You should get some good laughs.
Thank you for explaining horror comedies.
That's how comedy.
That's there you go.
Cool.
If you don't laugh, you don't have a soul.
Well, I mean, they're listening to our show, so it's already gone.
Yeah. Also, you got to pay the troll toll if you want the boys' hole. Was what I've been told. That's what I've heard. So yeah, that'll be posted on our Patreon website tomorrow. Make sure to get your votes in before the end of the month, and we'll be talking about one of those movies in May. Other Patreon news: we got 2 brand new Patreon supporters. We got to give mad shouts outs to. Big thanks to Sarah J and Todd H for supporting us on the old Patreon. Every dollar helps, and we thoroughly appreciate it. And as is tradition around these parts, we owe the both of you the old straight shilling salute. Here we go.
Slap my ass!
And one more.
Slap me in the ass!
Thanks for helping us keep DJ Elzebub's ass nice and red.
Yes, as is tradition. It is a tradition now.
It is.
That is.
We've been slapping ass for almost a year now.
That's crazy.
Heavy smoking!
Got some new bumps today. All right.
You guys are in real trouble. I learned how to make a bump.
Oh, no.
Randy learned how. Oh, no.
Oh, God, yes. Come with me.
I'll be stroking.
On Randy's wild ride.
Sweet baby Jane. Justin, you have some housekeeping to handle, don't you?
Let's talk some things. Let's talk horror video games. This upcoming Friday, we have a brand new horror video game coming out. It is Resident Evil 3. The remake is coming out, and I plan to purchase and play that on our Twitch channel. That's twitch.tv/Straight Chilling Podcast. So if you're interested in that new Resident Evil coming out, keep an eye out there. You can subscribe, and it will let you know when I'm playing live. If you have the app on your phone, it'll say, "Shaboy, Soju Exotic is playing Resident Evil live right now, so hop on."
So help me out with this.
Yes.
Resident Evil 3, is that the one with Nemesis? Is that the Nemesis? Okay.
It is, yes.
All right.
So that is coming out this Friday. Also, it's a weird month, or the way it's ending. It's actually the first for me, but we will have our first Tuesday next week. So a little late as far as the month goes, but you will have a new Top 5 Tuesday coming out. That is a segment on our YouTube. So check us out at youtube.com/Straight Chilling Podcast. This time I'm doing my top 5 favorite underrated slasher films.
Nice.
My top 5
Boy,
underrated
that's a tough
slasher
first.
films. Yes. So if you want some exclusive horror content, check us out on YouTube and you'll get some of those. Also, on our $10 Patreon tier, there's some exclusive content on that as well, and we'll be adding to that next month. So if you sign up at the $10 level, you get a whole bunch of mini casts that we do on series, new movies, stuff like that. And let's see, I'll be talking about Castlevania 3, Kingdom 2. I forgot to send my lock and key file, so that will also now be posted.
Yeah.
Rob, you got anything coming up for April for the Patreon tier?
Yeah, there's a movie that I watched recently. I recorded a mini cast on. It's called After Midnight. It's currently on VOD. I really enjoyed it. So I'll be dropping my thoughts over on the Patreon website about that.
Okay.
Probably tomorrow, actually. I'll get that posted.
Cool. Yeah, so that is a special tier we have available for you if you want even more straight chilling in your ear. If the YouTube isn't enough, the Twitch isn't enough, and the main podcast isn't enough.
And the spin-off podcast, and the Slack channel, and the Joe Bob live watches. If that's not enough,
we got more for you.
We're going to also do a cast of Rob's asshole so that you may fuck it.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, so like a
Look,
podcast?
we're getting into everything. There's no safer industry than the pornography industry.
Are you talking about like a rubber cast that you can purchase from us.
Oh yeah, I'm talking a pocket asshole,
A true cast.
A pocket butt.
a pocket Bobby booty.
Cool. Yeah. So you can get that coming at you next month, straightchillingpodcast.com. It'll be $69.69.
Yeah.
And not a cent more.
Start saving.
Keep your sales tax.
Is that all we got for news? Are we?
I think so. My house is kept.
My house is also kept. Randy, how's your house looking?
It's pretty filthy, but nobody gives a shit. So
All right.
why should I?
You're not having people over. You're quarantining.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Quarantining my ass.
Everything
Quarantine
is
Randy.
fine. Quarantine Randy.
Quarantine.
Sweet.
That's what I call a martini I make with corn whiskey.
This is a quarantine. Well, let's go ahead and talk about what we've been watching this year.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
I don't know.
This year?
The year?
Yeah, it's been a long week, boys. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, that's true, actually. This is the longest fucking March that's ever existed.
Jesus. Randy, what you been watching?
Oh my God, so many things. So, I mean, everybody's probably in the same boat of having way too much time on their hands all of a sudden and needing to escape a lot more. So I've been watching a lot of shit. I'm going to run down a list of a few things that I've watched that I'm not going to really expound on, but I watched them. Watched The Day After Tomorrow just to double down on the feelings of hopelessness.
Randy, why do you hate yourself?
That was a Becky choice because Becky likes to roll around in misery like a pig in shit. So
That's true. It really gets her going. I've seen it firsthand.
I rewatched What We Do in the Shadows. I watched the film Goon. You guys familiar with that one? With Sean William Scott. I finally watched it. I've heard it was not like stupid, even though like to my mind it looked like a dumb like raunchy comedy, and it kind of was, but it was smarter than I would have given it credit for.
Hockey movie?
Yeah, it's a hockey one where he plays an enforcer on the ice.
Didn't like Jay Baruchel direct that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Did he direct that? He was definitely in it.
I thought he did.
I don't know. He might have. Allison Pill's in it too. It's good. Tiger King, of course. Not going to waste time on that shit. I've never seen something like since.
Nope, don't waste time on that shit.
That's fair. I watched the original Murder on the Orient Express, which was silly. I watched a show called Hate Thy Neighbor, where a black comedian goes into various hate groups around America and interviews them, and it was very intense.
Wow.
Damn.
There's like multiple episodes where he goes and meets with multiple people. It's like 2 seasons.
I
Crazy.
wonder if there's a straight chillin' hate group I could go interview.
Oh my God. Try looking at our reviews.
Yeah. Our iTunes reviews are littered with them. Get in there.
I finished up American Horror Story 84, which I may or may not do a mini episode on. And then also The Platform, same story. Might do a mini episode on that.
Whoa.
Only accessible via $10 Patreon or above.
Cock tease Randy.
That's what they call them, man. So here's the shows I am going to talk about.
Sorry.
So there's Devs. Are you guys familiar with Devs?
You were telling me you were watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it is a show, an Alex Garland directed and created and written show. You might recognize them from Ex Machina and Annihilation.
Sunshine.
Absolutely, yeah.
Sunshine, yeah. So Alex Garland is, of course, with this crew, has a lot of gold platinum status in terms of creating amazing sci-fi shit. And this is no different. I would say we're probably 6 episodes in, and it's coming out weekly. It's on FX, and I recommend it. It definitely has this a similar like sort of high, like very real, like realistic within a very non-realistic situation sort of feel to it. Do you know what I mean? So like,
yeah, it's very grounded.
It's grounded. It uses like, bits and pieces of science as needed, as good sci-fi does, to sort of create pretty compelling shit. Basically the story is a woman works for this big Google type company, and her boyfriend also works there, and he gets added to this secretive devs team by when Ron Swanson's name? What's his name?
Oh God, I can't think of it.
Oh my God, I can't think of it. Allison Pill is in it also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, And anyway, and they do this incredibly secretive shit. And then he goes missing is basically the crux of the issue. And she's trying to figure out what happened. And we find out what this thing is they're working on. And it's insane. It's really compelling shit. I recommend it.
Nick Offerman, by the way.
Nick Offerman.
Thank you. I was like,
I mean, I know this name, but could not come up with it. I finally got to watch In the Mouth of Madness last night, which I had never seen before, which you guys had reviewed on this show. And I wish I could have been on that cast. It was a fun fucking movie. I enjoyed it. It did not wow me right away, but after about a half an hour, I was pretty sucked in. And I love the way it ended. It was very satisfying ending, that movie. I watched a movie called Bicycle Thieves, which is a movie from, I believe, the 50s, an Italian film. Italian. I don't know. It's a foreign film. And it's probably one of the best movies I've seen in a while. It's about this guy in post-war Rome after World War II who has been waiting 2 years to get issued a job in immense poverty. His family's just barely scraped by, him and his wife and son. And he's given this job, but he has to have his bike to do it. And obviously the bike gets stolen. And then that leads to this, like, the most fucking, it sounds really like lame, or not lame, but like really like basic. But the performances in this thing are so fucking good. I mean, I read up on it afterwards, and apparently it's like considered one of the most universally loved movies of all time. And it's easy to see why. So I recommend that as well. And then last, I'll mention this movie, which I've brought up on the Slack channel before. A friend of mine brought it to my attention, called The Peanut Butter Solution. You guys heard of this shit?
Heard of it.
It sounds risque.
It's not. It's fucking weird. It's a children's movie from Canada already.
Okay.
We're entering weird territory here. No, but this is a story about a kid who, I mean, you can't summarize it in a short time, but I'll try. The kid goes into this house where some people were squatting that he was friends with, some like hobos that he was friends with. And it's set in modern day. He climbs up into the burned out husk where they died of this house. This is a kid's movie, by the way. He climbs up and he gets into the house, and off screen, he just screams and his hair falls out and he goes completely bald. He has a mental breakdown about it. And then the ghosts of those hobos come to him in a dream and give him a peanut butter based solution that will grow his hair back, but he puts too much peanut butter in it, and so his hair won't stop growing. And everybody around him acts like it's more of a nuisance than a fucking bizarre thing that could never possibly happen. It's insane. It's very trippy, and I genuinely don't know how it got made the way it is. It's got like this undercurrent of real darkness. It's like got that Return to Oz sort of like creepy childhood horror thing going. I don't know.
That shit used to fly more back in the day.
Yeah, definitely. This was around the time with where that shit was going on, where Labyrinth was huge and shit. So like you could get away with a little bit more, but this, like, you got like fucking people getting burned alive and shit in this movie, not on camera, but you have it. You have a fucking art teacher who kidnaps an entire class and forces them to work in a sweatshop. That happens too. This shit's nuts. I would recommend it if you're on substances.
Okay.
Legal or otherwise.
It. I did not say that.
It was implied.
Was it implied?
Juice, what you been watching?
We're gonna get sued. I've been watching The Tiger King. Oh my lord. Oh. I'm gonna do a mini cast on it. I forgot to mention. I'm gonna do it. It's got a true crime element. I've done those before. I did Don't Fuck with Cats, so I think it's only appropriate that I also do Tiger King. Let me give you
It's only fair.
Let me give you a teaser of what my opinion is of that show. Fuck everyone in that show. I just can't help but watch that show and just like hang my head in shame that it's like from my home state and then like my home country and then just everything about it, just shame, just pure shame and just disappointment and just, it's fuck everyone in that show. And yet that is a reality. That is a true reality. that's out there. I feel like those people are becoming less and less outliers in the United States. I feel like I'm not even that surprised. Like I am surprised, but not that surprised. So yeah, if you don't know, it's a documentary that's out on Netflix now, docuseries, and it's about people who own a shit ton of tigers and lions and crazy wildlife, just essentially in their backyard, just all across the United States. There's 3 of them. There's one dude who's got like 10 wives. There's one dude who's like out in Oklahoma who's got a billion piercings and
multiple husbands
and wallet skin. And there's a lady who killed her millionaire husband and fed him to tigers. So that's who you're working with here. I'm in Florida, our home state of Florida.
It is very bizarre indeed.
I feel like I've heard of her area too. She runs like the cat area. I feel like I maybe considered going there at some point in my life, which is unfortunate.
There's a cat sanctuary here in Jacksonville, but nobody was murdered and then fed to them that I know of.
Not that well.
That you know of.
No, just because Netflix hasn't yet made a document, or a docuseries about
Nobody's made a document about it. It's completely undocumented.
There's no document. So yeah, I've been watching that. I went on vacation this weekend, and we ended up watching Wild Wild West one night. Which,
Wiki Wild?
Wiki Wild. Which as a 90s
Jim West?
As a 90s
Desperado?
kid,
Desperado.
No, you don't want nada?
None of this.
Six Gun in this?
Bob, do you know the whole song?
Brother,
would you like to perform it?
Buffalo
My
Soldier?
Now here comes the chorus.
I be stroking.
Yeah.
That's true.
I don't think that's it.
He does be stroking.
I be stroking.
Are we sure?
Yeah.
That's
I was wondering, like, how does Jaden Smith have like zero of the charm that Will Smith has? Like, and Will Smith is just like the most charming man. Like, I'll watch anything with like Will Smith in it, and just Jaden has zero of that. How got none of it.
And Jada Pinkett Smith too. Like,
yeah,
both of his parents are, and then he's just this shit.
Yeah,
he's just this shit.
So that's unfortunate for him. But that movie is like, it was made in '99, the year of my birth, of course. It's kind of like shocking that some of the jokes they got in there, even for the late '90s, it just makes you realize where we've come from, boys, in the past 21 years since I've been alive.
Yep, giant ass spiders. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. It's got such a weird blend of like Western comedy, steampunk. It's all over the place. Racist.
Racist, yeah.
Miss Lippin Rita.
Mrs. Lippin. Ebonia, why are you so cruel to me? I was like, Jesus Christ. That shit went way over my head as a child.
Yeah. That character is problematic.
Loveless.
Loveless.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Loveless.
Arliss Loveless.
Yeah. But that's about it.
Cool.
That shit's good.
Wild Wild West and Tiger King.
Jim West.
Yes.
Very similar properties in every single way.
Bob,
I've also...
What you been watching?
Thanks for asking, man. I've also been watching El Tigre Jefe on Netflix. I have not concluded the series yet.
Tiger Boss?
Yeah. AKA Tiger Boss.
How far are you, Bob?
I think I did the first 4 or 5 episodes. So I'm
about where you're at. You know, we're in the same space.
I'm getting there. It's been blowing my mind. It's enjoyable, but yeah, there's specifically the dude who has like 10 wives is like, that guy is like terrible. He needs to be.
They're all
prison.
terrible.
I know
they all are. Need to be in prison.
They all are, but
they're all different brands.
If you're watching this show and you feel like you need to choose sides, you're doing it wrong.
No, if
you think there's a hero of this story,
that's true. There is no hero at all. But he's like
no hero.
He's like a real life Jeremiah Sand, like King Cooter.
He is.
Like he is. Like disgusting on a different level than the other people are. I don't know.
Like nothing I'd ever smelled before in my life.
Like nothing I've ever smelled before in my life. Anyways, I have been getting a kick out of watching that. It is problematic because these people are fucking real. They're real people. Anyway, also Stuart Gordon passed away, which is super sad. Right. So pour one out for Stuart Gordon. But I wanted to revisit Reanimator because it's one of my favorites. Directed by Stuart Gordon. So I revisited that, and I also have been interested in watching some of his other movies that I had never seen before. So I am going to slowly work my way through his back catalog. I started watching The Pit and the Pendulum. I haven't finished it yet. It's from 1991. Pretty gruesome, but I will finish that and report back on that later. Also, I watched Ozark season 3, or I started watching it anyways. I haven't finished it just yet. Have you guys kept up with that series at all on Netflix?
I haven't watched any Ozark. I know people love it.
I have seen season 1 and I did enjoy it. I never got around to 2, and now 3's out and I'm fucked. So
yeah.
Well, Randy, luckily, there's no going back.
Luckily you have time, Randy, because you can't go anywhere.
I sure do. I sure fucking do.
It's so far, I haven't finished season 3 yet, but it seems like each season gets stronger as the show progresses. Like I like it more and more. Jason Bateman stars in it, and he also directs a lot of the series. And he's like seemingly a pretty baller director. There's like the episodes are like filled with tension. It's one of those things where like when the show first came out, it was like, oh, this is just like another Breaking Bad, and it kind of is in a way similarly toned, but it's got its own feel, really, especially as the show develops and you get to know
Breaking Bad is weirdly a little lighter, I think.
Yeah, maybe so. Anyway, Ozark season 3, I would recommend it so far. I have a moment.
Is it about drugs? What's it about?
Yeah, money laundering, specifically for like Mexican cartels and whatnot.
Okay.
But yeah. Good shit so far. Recommend that. That's what I have been watching. Let's go ahead and get into the main event and talk about Creature from the Black Lagoon. Kick it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
What is on the back of the box? Creature from the Black Lagoon from 1954. This was directed by Jack Arnold and is starring Richard Carlson, Julie Adams, Richard Denning, some other folks and people. The synopsis is as follows. A strange prehistoric beast lurks in the depths of the Amazonian jungle. A group of scientists try to capture the animal and bring it back to civilization for study. So this, of course, is one of the original Universal monster movies. This was sort of the last one that was introduced in the pantheon of monsters back in the day. They sort of capped the original, 40 or 45 movies with Creature from the Black Lagoon trilogy. Had you guys seen this movie before, and would you recommend people check it out? Randy?
No, excuse me. No, I had not seen this before. I have I have a gray area where I've not seen a ton of Universal monster movies.
Pun intended?
When I was growing up. What?
Because they're black and white.
Sure.
Thanks.
That's a reach, Bob.
So I watched this movie in halves. I would say that, for modern sensibilities, this movie moves pretty damn slow. And that you got to take that for what it is. It's same as Caligari sort of thing, but with less of the, for my taste, having the voice acting and stuff, and that that accent that they used in every 40s and 50s horror movie. Not just horror movie, but movie. I forget what they call that, but
yeah, it's like they forgot how to talk normal.
It's like an accent that doesn't exist in reality.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Showbiz accent.
Yeah, it was for a while. That's how they trained people back then. Anyway,
so weird.
So I would recommend this movie to people looking to fill out their horror movie knowledge. I would recommend it if you're into creature features or into the older stuff, and if you have some patience, because it's going to take some with modern sensibilities being what they are. It's not a laugh a minute, and it's not a scream a minute either. It is what it is. It's just a tale. And I would say, yeah, I recommend it to those people, but not really a ton else.
All right. Juice, what about you?
I had never seen it before either. And I only really found it interesting from like a historical standpoint. There are things just from that general era and the way they did things, the music, that I find like really charming and interesting and pleasant in those kinds of ways, just in like, this is old timey. And it reminds me of some other like old movies I would watch with my grandparents like growing up, but I'd never seen this one specifically. And it was a little hard to get through, honestly. It wasn't charming enough to kind of to coast on that. It's very dated, even more so than it's weird because we just did Caligari, which was like 30 years younger than this movie, and
older.
I felt that like Caligari was more like visually interesting and things like that. So it was. I'll talk about that a little bit in the main cast, but so yeah, I don't know. I got a little bored with it, honestly. It's problematic.
Okay. I don't know.
Bob, would you recommend this movie? Had you ever seen it before? I know you haven't, but.
Oh, well, thanks for asking anyways. No, I'd never seen this movie before. It's one of the Universal Monster movies that has escaped me. I don't know. I would not describe this movie as problematic at all. Of course, it is dated because it's old as shit. But it's hyper influential, and the historical significance is definitely there. And I think that was enough to maintain my interest throughout the course of the movie. There's a little bit of context and history that if you know about as you're watching it, it probably adds a little bit more to the flavor of the movie as well, which we can talk about as we get into the rest of the movie. And also, the whole time I was watching this, I just kept thinking about like little baby Guillermo del Toro watching this back in the day.
Yeah.
And rocking his world and later influencing him to do The Shape of Water. And for some reason, that image was just in my brain the whole time I was watching this, and I really appreciate that. Overall, yeah, I recommend you watch this movie, because if you're a horror nerd and if you're listening to us, you probably are one. You're going to want to see all of these Universal Monster movies at some point, because they have influenced tens of, dozens of other movies that have come after it. And, it's just one of those things. It's nice to get that foundation in your brain and see where all of it stems from. So yeah, recommend for sure. Let's go ahead and drop that spoiler warning, and we'll talk about the rest of the movie.
Spoiler warning.
Spoiler warning.
Spoiler warning.
You've been warned.
Just want to make sure we get
this was a Bigfoot episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is now.
It is.
I think one of the most interesting things about this movie for me was seeing how other movies were influenced by it, picking it more than the movie itself. And that's why I kind of said it was a little bit problematic for me. Because if I just took this as a movie and I wasn't able to recognize, if it didn't resonate for me that I love The Shape of Water, and it's cool to pull things from that, or Jaws, or things like that, then I would have found this movie a lot less interesting.
The cultural significance really does make it interesting, as otherwise to me it was better than a lot of creature features from the time that I have seen, but it still is what it is. And it's these are the tropes that are so established that it's difficult to look at them and not say, oh, there's that trope, and oh, there's that. That wasn't what bothered me.
about this. The tropes wasn't like what bothered me about it. Like, I just, even for a movie of its time, I think it's flawed in a lot of ways that could have been avoided. Like, for instance, some of my what really did blow my mind about this movie and that I really appreciated was like almost all the underwater scenes, which I thought looked fantastic and thought looked like just really stimulating. And like, I was like wondering, how did they do that? And just things like that.
Can I tell you how they did that?
Well, I have a little bit too, and true, but you can tell me, that's fine. But let me finish this thought. Okay. They show you way too much of this monster, and when it's not underwater, and even sometimes when it is underwater, it doesn't look good, in my opinion. I don't like. It's one of those things where when it's underwater, sometimes it does look. And I know they use two different suits, one above and one below, so it does kind of look different. Mm-hmm. But it looks goofy as shit.
Two different actors, too. Maybe it has something to do with
different actors.
How they move.
It could. But even, like, one is lighter and one is darker for the scenes that they had to shoot, like because they actually shot, like, in water. And the one, like, everything that's underwater just looks better to me. And, I don't know. It's just, it could be, like, the shade of the suit and, like, how everything is. Because it's black and white, too. So you kind of have to deal with that, which was problematic for me too, because this is like set in a lush jungle. I know there's like nothing they could do like with that, but it really kind of like hinders it now. Like you hear like the monkeys and like the jaguars in the background. It's like all black and white. I'm like, God damn, which doesn't hurt it when they're underwater because it's dark and that's supposed to work. So kind of goes back and forth for me, but go ahead, Bob.
Yeah. Well, the underwater scenes are really the most iconic scenes of this movie, I think, with the exception of the shot of, the creature holding the woman. But also that's sort of like why this movie does work on like a horror aspect. Cause like the first time the creature becomes aware of these people, he's like swimming underneath the water and you're there with him and you see people floating and they're unaware of this creature beneath them. And that's sort of like a real fear that a lot of people have of, the ocean or lake or any body of water. Something you can't see the bottom. Yeah, you don't know what's underneath you. You brush up against something and it's just like naturally going to scare you. So that's sort of a lot of, what this movie is playing on. But yeah, this movie was shot in 3D. And it's sort of like as I was watching it, I was trying to put myself in the place of somebody in 1954 sitting in a cinema watching this movie in 3D and like how those underwater sequences would look even more like engrossing. And, they like developed a 2-camera underwater rig to film this thing in 3D. Because when I was first watching it, I knew like certain sequences that they filmed like in Florida at Marineland. And I was wondering if they had like a big tank and they just had like a camera outside of the tank and they were filming through the plexiglass or whatever. And then I did some research and, realized that they built this like whole fucking contraption just to shoot this movie underwater. And like, the logistics of making that happen were just like added a lot to the watching this movie for me, like the experience that I got out of watching this movie, like the ingenuity that had to go into like making that happen. And then of course when they project it, they had like 2 different reels like projecting on screen so that one eye basically saw what each camera shot, and then you wear the goofy little 3D glasses and it gives a 3D I guess trick of the eye really is what it is. I don't know. Just like knowing all of that added to the enjoyment of watching this movie for me, specifically those underwater sequences. I'm sure like back in the day, you had never seen anything quite like that before, and it probably made you feel like you were underwater with this creature, which would kind of blow your mind.
I'm reminded of the story of that footage of a train that was that traveled all around the world when filmmaking was just barely beginning, and people would scream because they thought the fucking train was coming at them. I don't know how true that is, but that is like a famous thing that people say.
That would like to train your mind. I feel like you have to train your mind to look at a screen.
Pun intended.
Yeah.
A funny story that kind of correlates with that. My dad would tell me that his grandfather, when TVs first came out, when he was younger, he would talk to the people in the screen. So like when they would say like talk at the audience, like, hey, they're out there, everyone. Like my great grandfather would talk back at the screen, like, hey, like he just didn't. So you would have to train yourself. Like you don't know, like proper. Well, yeah, you just don't know like how to act around this new.
How are you doing that?
This wizardry.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess we should talk about the plot a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't know how. Like, actually, there was quite a bit of the plot that I didn't know. Like, this is the kind of movie where you feel like you know it by reputation alone. Like, you wouldn't even have to see it to kind of know what it is. But you don't actually. Like, and it. I mean, it is pretty predictable stuff, but it's not exactly what I had thought it was. So, at the beginning of this movie, you have some geological doctors looking for fossils in South America, right? South America, right?
Yeah. It's in the Amazon. With
some dudes in blackface that are supposed to be natives. And he basically finds like a claw of what it turns out to be one of the creature's claws, or a creature similar to the creature in the Black Lagoon. And he takes it back. He enlists the help of some other scientists, including what are the characters' names? Is it Jack?
David and Mark.
Dave and Mark. Mark is the boss. David is the hero, basically, and his girlfriend Julie, Julie's the actress's name. I forget.
Yeah, what is her name?
I don't know. I'll have to look it up.
Julie Adams plays Kay Lawrence in the film.
Kay,
okay.
And then the three of them, and then a surly tugboat captain takes them upstream where they wouldn't normally go. And when they finally get back to the geological site, they find that the blackface natives have been murdered. And they, after digging around a while, they're like, well, what if we go upstream? What's up there? And they're like, oh, that's where they call the Black Lagoon. People don't go there. And so they're like, well, let's go there. I think that we'll maybe find something there. And so they go up there, and they're in a lagoon, and it's beautiful and all that shit. And all of a sudden, you've got this creature, and you're seeing this from the creature's point of view at first, a little bit more teased at first, and before he really gets revealed. But
yeah, his hand keeps coming out of the lagoon.
Yeah, keep doing slow. He has big ass. His claws are pretty freaky, even though we've seen that the only thing he really does with it is just sort of like grab at your face and then you are dead.
There were too many times where his hand just was like bobbing around.
Randy's
they really got used to
bringing the 3D to YouTube.
Oh, YouTube exclusive.
So yeah, and then from there, it's just sort of is, Mark's ambition versus Dave's, desire to learn about this creature. He wants to capture it alive. They're afraid it's going to kill him. Mark is like, I don't care, I'll kill him, and we'll take back the husk, and then we'll have the greatest find in the world.
Mark wants to be famous and make money off of it. David wants to be the scientist and protect it and study it and stuff like that. Yeah,
exactly. And they, it's just a back and forth tug of war about that as they go with their aqua lungs under the water multiple times.
The old aqua lung.
Eventually, people start getting picked off. There are multiple red shirts involved that get picked off for a while. And then Kay almost gets snagged at one point. And then they eventually try to just leave. Well, no, first they capture him. They use some sedative in the water.
They do, yeah. They get him. He just busts out, though.
Yeah, he just breaks the fuck out.
Just like, well, I'm tired of this shit.
Poor Kay. The role of Kay is like so diminutive because it's like she either is slowly turning and screaming or she's distracting the men who will then be murdered.
It's not just the men. So she's like in between this pull between Mark and David. And then also the creature just like lust after her. Yeah. She's literally just a thing to be like acquired by one of these things. Yeah. Like that's pretty much her role. Yeah.
She does the slow turn and scream at least 3 times.
She does trip over nothing at one point as she's running away. She just falls, and it's like
as women tend
establishing
to do.
Tropes, buddy. Establishing them tropes.
Lazy writing.
I will say the first the first scene that did like really kind of give me that cinematic like awe, like I was like, oh man, I could see where this is blowing people's minds, was when she goes into the water.
Yeah.
And then she's swimming up top and the creature is swimming like right below her. And then kind of starts swiping at her a little bit, touches her foot a little bit at first. That was a great scene. I love that scene.
Dude, I'll tell you one thing I love about the creature is how he swims, because there's a very intentional swaying that like where his like switch sides, like, and like, I don't know shit about swimming, really. I can swim like a child, but I don't know shit about it. I just know I can tread water. But this thing is like swimming, and it's like oscillating its hips a lot, and like sort of, I don't know what that is exactly, but it seems like a choice for this.
It's hypnotizing, huh, Randy?
It's hypnotizing. Look at them hips.
I be stroking.
And I don't know, man. I just thought that was a really interesting choice. Maybe that's a method of swimming that I just don't know, but it seemed to me like a choice for this creature.
Because there was a guy, I couldn't believe too. As I was watching this, I realized, like, I was like, they shot this underwater. I was like, that's a guy in that suit. And I was like, and I later realized, a little trivia up, he didn't have an air tank.
No, he couldn't have.
At like times where he could like hold his breath. And I'm like, that seems ridiculous. Just from a practical sense, like, goddamn, that would have been so frustrating. But there's this dude, and he couldn't really see either, like the whole underwater. So good on that guy, because again, you're right. The underwater scenes with the monster sell it. It just
without that, this movie isn't anything really. Like, it isn't a whole lot of anything.
It's not, because when he's walking around like on the ground, it looks ridiculous. It just
it didn't bother me as much when he, like, I mean, it looks definitely more silly, and it's less engaging, but I don't know if it like the costume itself looked any worse.
I think what they do, like with his mouth, and I guess just the eyes, to me, it looked absolutely ridiculous when he's not in the water. It felt more natural. I don't know when he was in the water, and it's darker down there. You got more shadows or whatever. When he's just like standing up on the land, it looks like a dude in a poorly made suit.
One thing I thought was interesting was, and correct, maybe I'm wrong, and it was just some other background noise, but at one point when he's locked up, he starts squealing or squeaking or something. Was that something else? Yeah. Okay, maybe that was some other audio, and it was like, it looked like his mouth was moving to me, and he was like,
he did like move his mouth, but the only time when he breaks out, no, he just kind of, he's like watching the woman, and the woman gives him.
It was before that, though, is when he was still in the cage.
Oh.
I don't know. I'd have to rewatch it, but it's like, I don't know. I thought that was interesting, and I guess maybe it didn't happen. So,
and then one point later, so that when he busts out, it's him. He's in the cage, and then it's the woman Kay, and she's with just a red shirt guy. I can't remember what he.
One of the other scientists.
Yeah, another scientist, and they're kind of having a conversation. Monster busts out and just kind of grabs this dude by the face, and then he gets lit on fire, which was a cool effect.
Yeah.
And then
a big jump.
But then they have to like wrap the dude's face up. He's not dead, but later he's like laying in a bed under the ship or in the like bow of the ship. And there's a porthole.
Just a tiny arm-sized porthole.
And again, the monster just like reaches his hand through the porthole. And for some reason, they've strapped this poor scientist man who has his face bandage like down. He's strapped down to the bed. And he's like wriggling around. I don't know why you would do that, because it's not like a mental patient or anything. He's strapped down to the bed. And then everybody finally realizes that there's just this giant claw like reaching.
It was a slow turn and scream.
And they just like shoo it away. They're like, oh,
get out of here.
And it just like.
That was fucking weird.
It kind of cracked me. Because like they don't try to like pull it in, like chop his arm off. They're just like, oh shit, there it is again. They'll just shoot it away. And it's just like always this slow arm reach. Like it feels like they tried to really like get their money's worth out of that like shot, because they did it too many times
where several times.
Claw is just slowly coming out. But there's not even like a lot of like cool kills. Like, yeah, he grabs that dude by the face and then he gets caught on fire, and that looked cool. But there's a fight underwater.
Yeah, there's a lot of those, actually. There's a couple.
Yeah, there's just not a lot of cool kills. For
really,
me,
the biggest conflict in this movie isn't between them and the monster. It's between David and Mark.
Mark, yeah.
For a long time. And then Mark just up and eats it, and he's just gone. Like, it's interesting that, like, the guy that you would think would be the villain to the end, sort of the guy that's just the fly in the ointment for the whole movie, at around the beginning of the third act, he gets got. And he's just like, okay, well,
it's pretty deep in there. I mean, because at that point, everybody else had been picked off. So you got like the Steamboat guy, you got Kay, David, Mark, and then the old archaeologist or whatever. And they try to leave, and the monster's like, nope, you're not getting out, Vish.
With a branch.
Yeah, I'm getting my bone on. I'm getting my lady. You guys aren't taking her. So he throws like, and part of it too is like when they're like, what is that? Oh shit. It literally just looks like a bunch of branches.
It doesn't look that imposing. Like, it looks like any boat would be able to trample over pretty easily.
When they go underwater, then they're able to sell it more like, oh, there's this big log, and they try to hook like a winch up to it. But yeah, at the time, they're like, oh God. It literally just looks like.
Yeah, they're like, oh no, we're going to hit it. But they're like slowly drifting towards a couple branches.
Yeah, so there were times in this movie where I'm just like, man, for as much effort as they put into trying to shoot this underwater, they didn't really try to sell me on like, we're stuck here or things like that. It just feels like they went all in sometimes and barely in a lot of the other times.
What do you think, Bob?
Well,
yeah, you got a little smirk on your face.
I found it interesting that when they were dropping those tablets into the water to try and like drug the creature, that they were like cocaine tablets.
Were they? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, it didn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense to me. But yeah, like as they're trying to drug the creature, that's like an active ingredient and whatever those things are that they're dropping into the water.
Everybody knows cocaine is notoriously slowing effects on people.
Yeah.
Everybody. That's why people do it, because they just want to mellow. They want to catch a mellow. You know,
maybe the problem is they gave that fucking thing cocaine, and now it's like, no, I want more of that shit.
Maybe
it's all jacked up.
That's the unintended subtext years later.
Yeah. The guy that played the creature underwater was like hired for the job initially because he was supposed to just help them scout underwater locations. So like he was swimming around with like taking them around, looking at stuff, and then the director was like, "Hey guy, I like the way you swim. You want to be my creature?"
Hey guy.
And he was like, "Yes, I do." But yeah,
he's like, "Hey, you know what? You're a monster!"
Indeed. And he was able to hold his breath up to like 4 minutes at a time for certain shots, which is unbelievable to me. I think I could make it like maybe a minute and then I'd just drown.
Dude, 1 minute.
We're all going to time ourselves, right? You're going to get about 4 minutes of silence.
The best audio.
Here we go. This is going to sound real good.
Perfect podcast segment.
Yep. Indeed. On YouTube, we're all just like slowly
Be prepared
dropping.
to be bedazzled.
Be prepared.
Dropping one by one.
You're right, though. The drugging aspect was weird because once they capture him, they kind of abandon that and he breaks out. But then they kind of go back to it. I found it strange that like they kept thinking it was a good idea. Now, of course, you got to get those good shots, and I'm glad that they existed. But from a standpoint of logic, they kept thinking the best idea was to fight this monster under the water. Like they kept going there.
They could have just like handcuffed its claw when it's peeking through a window.
Yeah,
handcuffed it to the bed,
So
and not just shoo it away.
Were you guys like throughout the course of watching this movie, like I just became like more and more, I guess, on the creature's side, even though, yeah, he is sort of terrorizing these people, but they like refuse to leave and keep fucking with him. And they're like, you know, dropping drugs in the water and stuff. Like he essentially wasn't messing with anybody. They came to fuck with him. Like, I don't know.
The only thing, well, he killed at the beginning of the movie, he killed the blackface natives. So
yeah, he killed the team.
Other than
and
that,
it wasn't even in his lagoon. And the thing is, one of the things that was intriguing about this movie, since I hadn't seen it, was on Let's Get Physical Media. You guys did an interview, and with that guy Justin and
Beam,
I can't remember his last name. Yeah, he was talking about this and how he loved this film, and like he was describing it, and the way he describes it was more interesting than this film to me, because a lot of it, like, I get it. Like, yeah, you're going into the jungle and you're going into something else's territory, and then you're kind of like terrorizing it. But it didn't even feel quite like that, because a lot of the time it is Mark. Like, I get Mark like being a dumbass and like wanting to capture it, but everybody else isn't real. Most of them are like, would treat it as if like they're being hunted by an animal, which they kind of are. So they kind of, I didn't quite feel like a lot of sympathy for the creature, because they do this dance between like, oh, it's intelligent, it has some kind of consciousness with like how it's like kind of pursuing the woman and like sets traps and stuff. But then they also go with the whole like feral, like it's just hunting them and killing them because it's in their or like they're in its territory. And so then I was like, well, then it's just kind of like a creature feel. Like, I don't feel bad for like the the spiders and arachnophobia, or like the alligator in Lake Placid. Like, so I feel
like intelligence is implied though, because it is like a humanoid creature. It
is, yeah.
Well, but I think that the reason that it kills those people at the beginning is because they've disrupted a gravesite. I think that like that was my takeaway from that. It's like, okay, well, they've disturbed hallowed ground of this fucking swamp creature, and it's smart enough to know it somehow, and it fucking takes its revenge and then is chased into a lagoon. So yeah. I kind of see that. What I didn't see was like, and I mean, maybe it sounds like you guys did, but I kept waiting for the really overt part where it was like, okay, this creature's in love with Kay. I never really saw that. Like, really, I know that kind of like, I kind of got that impression, but it wasn't as overt as I anticipated it being, and to me it's almost negligible. It's like, because really what it's doing is picking people off. Like, it doesn't spend a ton of time chasing specifically after her, except for that one scene, which is great. And then later on there's a scene where he's chasing her on land, but other than that, like, she's almost just in the crossfire with everyone else. Yeah,
equal opportunity, kind of regardless of gender. Almost.
I'm not sure that it's in love with her as much as she's just part of the crew that he's after. You could definitely take that from it, I think, but it's not. It's
not important. Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
and that's the thing.
I think one of the main things was like I feel like they tried to throw it in there, but you're right. It doesn't really matter. One of the things like that kind of after like the whole pursuit and everything was like when he was kind of watching her before he broke out of the cage, and it seems like he always kind of like spares her, but you're right. It's not like it's not like a King Kong like type of
King Kong. It's so obvious that he's sparing her because she's offered up. She's offered up as a sacrifice, and he spares her knowingly when you're expecting her to die. Yeah, there's no way for her to escape. In this case, she basically is protected by the men so much that you don't really know what would have happened if the two of them had just been there, like face to face. Except for the one scene later where she runs away and he chases her, and he doesn't kill her. He instead passes out for some reason. Like
cocaine.
All that cocaine.
Was it the cocaine at that point? It was just like it was just a little late. He's like, "Oh shit, I'm peeking."
I'm coming down.
That's how the cocaine worked in the 50s. It put you to bed.
Yeah.
It was a real shit cocaine.
That shit was legal. That shit was like Red Bulls nowadays. Like, I'll give you a little pep in your step. Hell yeah.
Yep.
A little less addictive.
Back in the day, when I was young, we had to drink the Four Locos.
Oh, you're a monster! What the hell is wrong with you?
Yes.
Way too much control for Randy. I don't even know what's happening.
What else? How does this? They get away.
They get away. They blow some cocaine in his face. underwater, which was a cool shot.
He just like fades into the dark, right? And he
Yeah,
just
he
like
falls into the water.
float into the dark.
And you're like, did he die? Did he not die?
Yeah,
yeah.
Cliffhanger.
And then it's just the end. So, I mean, like you don't get a whole lot of answers there until the creature returns the next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, they made 3 movies in 3 years. Like they had, before this first one was even released, they had already planned on making a sequel. So that they was fully intended to
and if it came out a year later, then I'm sure they had it like mostly scripted out and whatnot.
Yep. Bing, bang, boom.
At least you had a plan.
Yeah. Do you guys have anything else to touch on before we rate this?
No. Apparently not.
All right. Randy, why don't you kick us off out of 5? How are you feeling about The Creature from the Black Lagoon?
This movie is... It's tough to look... It's tough to gauge this movie for me because it sort of falls into that Caligari area of being a immensely influential film that was like very clearly like honored in its time and huge and influential on other movies of its kind for so many years. Like there's no denying that. However, the difference for me is pretty stark in terms of strict enjoyment on my part.
Yeah.
I gotta say this movie wasn't really my bag, I don't think. Like there were some cool shots. I really liked the history of it. I liked I don't know. I liked some of the charming nature, like Justin touched on before. Like it's sort of olden day charm, but it really seemed like intensely lame in a lot of ways for me. Just because I've seen so much more. Because cinema's been so much more daring for years. Maybe this was daring at the time, but it doesn't really strike that chord now, and it doesn't really hit the same level of like eerie, inhuman quality that like a Caligari or a silent film tends to. So that weird off-kilter feeling. This felt very much like a straightforward Hollywood film because that's what it was. And it's hard to ding a movie for that. But I got to be honest that it wasn't something that I'll probably watch very often ever again, if at all. I don't know. But I don't know. I just don't have a lot of strong feelings towards it, which is probably the worst thing that could happen with a movie. I would rather hate this movie than not have strong feelings for it because it deserves a strong feeling for its place in history. But I just don't have one really. I think it lived up to what it obviously lives up to what it's supposed to be culturally, but it doesn't live up to being a movie that I enjoy. It doesn't live up to being a good movie for me. So I don't know really what to say about it beyond that. Maybe you guys can help me clarify with your opinions because it sounds like you might be in a similar basket. Or at least Justin, maybe. I don't know. But I'm having a hard time parsing it. To me, it's not a movie I'll watch again. It's not a movie that I totally enjoyed, but it's a movie that I appreciate for its place in history. And for those reasons, I think I'm going to give it a 3.
All right. 3 from Randy. Juice, what about you?
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I was going to give it. And to kind of build off of, I feel like we're very much in the same space on this movie to where I do have a hard time seeing why this movie for its time was separated from a lot of other movies, because it does. And except I do understand, like, I feel like the water aspects are really what made it like, wow, like this spectacle. But everything above land, I feel like, was kind of by the numbers from what I've seen from other creature features and films from that era. Like Randy said, it was like kind of like a standard Hollywood blockbuster at the time. It'd be, to me, it's kind of like in like 50 years, if like Ant-Man is like hailed up is like one of the greatest superhero. it'd be like, really, it is? Like, why? You know, oh yeah, they shrunk and look at, you know, he's small or whatever.
Those effects.
It's like there are aspects that make it different, but outside of those aspects, like that I really respect and that's going to get a lot of weight from my score, it feels like a by the numbers kind of piece. Like there's nothing about the story or the characters that made me go like, wow, this is such a classic. It's really those underwater shots that really kind of bring it up, but it's not enough for me to make it like it doesn't feel as influential as like a Caligari, like with its style and its ending and its look. Like it didn't feel that unique to me. So I'm going to give it a 3 as well.
Cool. I think I enjoyed it a little bit more than you guys did by the sound of it. Not a whole lot more. I think generally speaking, I like the idea of this movie more than I actually like the overall plot of this movie. Like, you know, the way it starts is solid, but once we get to the lagoon, it's just like a lot of cat and mouse, basically. It's a lot of back and forth. It does get a little bit repetitive in that way, and the characters aren't necessarily like growing or changing throughout the course of the story. And, you know, there's only so much that we can really pull from the creature, because unlike a lot of the other Universal monsters, the creature from the Black Lagoon can't talk, or at least it doesn't. There is no dialogue. So we don't really know what it's thinking, or, you know, if it has a motive, what its motives are, so we're just sort of like, you know, is the creature after the woman? Is he just trying to protect himself and his lagoon, or, you know, just kind of reading into that situation, I think. But I do like the history behind this movie and a lot of the idea of it being like presented in 3D, and like the success of this movie in 3D actually like kept the medium alive for an extra few years. Whereas, by the time this movie was released, 3D was starting to dwindle a little bit, but those underwater shots kind of brought it back to popularity. And I think, I don't know, just like those little bits are interesting. And of course, parts of this being shot in Florida also kind of has like a bit of a soft spot for me as well. And I don't know, all that, just, I might be looking at this with, you know, a bit of a rose-colored lens, but I think I'm going to give it a 3.5. It's not like crazy higher than you guys, but I definitely appreciate it, I think, a little bit more. That's going to put our aggregate at a 3.2. But let's go ahead and jump over to our Rotten Tomatoes segment, see what the critics and users have to say about the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Certified fresh to death.
All right. So here in the Rotten Tomatoes segment, for those new to the podcast, is where I'm going to have the critics and user score as listed on Rotten Tomatoes for this film in front of me. And these two gentlemen will do their best to accurately guess the percentage of positive reviews for each. So I'll start with the critic score as usual. There's a total count of 33 for this one. So, it's an older film, obviously. And it's been talked about to death in academic settings, but not a ton of direct reviews that they have at their disposal, I guess. So out of 100%, Bob, you start us off this time. What do you think out of 100%, what do you think, critics?
I'm gonna go with an 85%.
85%. All right, Juice, you got a guess in mind?
That's a good guess, Bob. 38. That's low on the count. I feel like
33.
There's probably 33. All right. I feel like there's probably a lot of bootlickers up in there.
Lick my boot, plebe.
Ass lickers up in there.
Big salads.
They love their big salads.
Don't we all?
But
lots of stuff in them.
I'll go, what you said, 85, Bob?
Yeah.
I'll go a scotch lower and say 80.
80. All right. And a ring-a-ding-ding. Somebody here got it on the nose, and that would be Mr. Bobbert. You got 85%. 85% is the critics' consensus.
I call cheater Blumpkin Eater.
I do love winning. I win at all costs. That's all I want to do. Very competitive.
The whole reason we're still doing this podcast is so Rob can cheat at Rotten Tomatoes.
Yes.
It is very bizarre indeed.
It is very suspicious.
Critics' consensus on this film is a solid atmospheric creature feature that entertains without attempting to be deeper than it needs. It certainly doesn't attempt to be deep.
No,
Does not do that. Unless you're talking about.
I feel like it could have easily been deeper with just a little more effort.
It didn't even. This movie didn't even have a moral, really. Unless you really want to dig into it and say that, like, scientific research is better if you don't kill things.
It's better when you feed animals cocaine.
Yeah,
I mean,
cocaine.
Yeah, I don't know what to. I don't know what to make of that.
That's the soundbite we need.
No, is it? Is it really? Is that what we need?
Let's add it to the list. All right. We're going to go with the audience score now. There are user ratings for this out the wazoo. There are 23,584 audience reviews for this film. Juice out of 100. What are you thinking?
I'm going to stick with my 80.
80% from Juice. All right. Bobby, you got something for me?
Bob didn't like that.
La dee da, Mr. Soju Exotic over here.
Yes, sir.
I'll stand true to myself and I'll be 85 again. Let's do this.
Okay.
To thine own self be true. And this one's going to go to Juice. 73%. 73. So
Juice Exotic. I hope somebody makes me a meme for Juice Exotic or Soju Exotic. I'm sorry.
What about Exotic Stains? That's pretty good.
No, I like Soju
Exotic Dancer Stains.
I be smoking.
Yeah, so that's Rotten Tomatoes segment.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, that's it.
How about some trivia? Juice, you got some trivia for us, don't you?
I got some trivia. We ran through a scotch of it. Let me learn you something, Bob.
All right.
Hit it.
It's totally time for trivia.
It's totally time for trivia. This is nice. I like this because it feels like you don't get a lot of this, but Julie Adams noted that making the film was an extremely pleasant process. So that's nice. And that the cast and crew got along quite well. She also explained that she felt sympathetic toward the monster. Adams said, "There always is that feeling of compassion for the monster. I think maybe it touches something in ourselves, maybe the darker parts of ourselves. That long to be loved and think that they really can't be loved. It strikes us."
I be smoking.
Yes.
God damn it.
There's no greater reward than seeing Rob bristle at me using these fucking things.
See, Bob, that's the problem. You keep feeding it. That's the problem. We mentioned this before, but 2 different stuntmen were used to portray the creature, and therefore 2 different suits were used in the movie. One person played the creature when it was in the water, and they wore a slightly lighter suit. Another guy played the creature when it was out of the water, and it was a darker suit. I assume that had to do with filming purposes and lighting.
Oh, yeah.
So Rob had mentioned that the guy who played the creature was a professional diver and swimmer and was required to hold his breath for up to 4 minutes at a time.
That is a long goddamn time.
Yeah. For multiple times. The directors, so they specifically didn't build a breathing apparatus or anything, because the director's logic was that the air would have to travel through the monster's gills, and thus air bubbles from his mouth or nose must not be seen. Yeah. The problem is that when he's above air, he can see like he's just breathing like regular. So it's like, well, okay, I guess so.
They do have like his gills moving in some scenes. You can see him kind of flapping around.
Yeah. Whatever. Poor man. So Julie Adams has stated that she was not knocked out when she was being carried into the cave by the creature. Rather, Adams claims that she scraped her head against the plaster wall of the cave while the stuntman was carrying her. Neither Adams nor the stuntman had very good visibility while filming this scene. Yeah, apparently these guys like couldn't see anything, specifically with the guy who, it was even worse with the guy who's underwater, which seems like really sketchy shooting.
There's unions for that shit now.
Yeah, now back in the 50s, not so much. So there was one, where was it, where they talk about where they were the designs for these. And it was these old, I'm trying to find it specifically.
The first creature costume was modeled after the Oscar statuette, which was given by the Academy. Yeah. But it was scrapped very quickly because it was like super smooth, like the statue was, and it looks kind of, I don't know, lame, not very scary.
Sexual,
yeah. But the final like foam rubber latex creature doesn't really look much like the award at all. It was actually there was I
have it. Yeah.
Oh, do you?
Did you? Well, I didn't. Okay, yeah. It seemed like I was trying to help you out there. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
But
come on.
So there's these. The creature's appearance was based on old 17th century woodcuts of two bizarre creatures called the sea monk and the sea bishop. The creature's final head was based on that of the sea monk, but the original discarded head was based on that of the sea bishop. So there are these old woodcuts. Was that where you're going, Bob? That's what I kind of want.
I was going to talk about Millicent Patrick.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so she was an animator for Disney back in the day. And she's credited for like the final design of the creature's head. She even when the movie first came out, she actually like did a tour with like foam models of the creature's head, like kind of showing it off, helping promote the movie and stuff. But she only recently was she given that credit because Bud Westmore, who actually like sculpted the mask, he didn't design it, but like physically made it. He took like all the credit for it, or was given all the credit. I don't know that he took it, but until recently. So yeah, big shouts outs to Millicent Patrick.
I just searched for her, and literally every picture is her with the mask or with a drawing that she did. Of the
Millicent
mask.
Patrick?
Yeah. And I gotta say, man, I was gonna bring that up too. The costumes, quality may vary a little bit, but the actual the artistic direction and design of the creature is one of my favorite fucking creature designs of all time. I have a fucking portrait done by Jason Edmiston, who's like big with the Mondo poster crowd and all that shit, that he did of the creature's face. And it is one of my favorite things that I own. One of my favorite art pieces that I own. It is such a cool looking fucking design. And, it's to me, like the fact that it's also garnered all this praise and is centered around this like really old movie, it really added to that too. So it's just this great design with a great history behind it. I don't know. It's great.
Yeah, I almost like all that kind of more like Bob was kind of saying, like the lore and the idea and like the design of it more than the actual movie itself.
Yeah.
Because I do like the design too. And like I said, when it's underwater, it looks cool. But when it's like hanging around and you're limited by like what you can, like making it out of rubber and like the eyes have to be fixed and shit. It's like, well, then it looks more silly. But yeah, I agree. The design is really cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of context around this movie that it definitely enriches the film. Which, it kind of you hope to watch a movie and it just totally stand on its own two legs, entirely on its own. But I don't know that this one necessarily does. There's just a lot to go with it, though, that helps my enjoyment of it for sure. Juice, were you going to talk about that Citizen Kane dinner party by any chance?
I was not. Go for it, Bob.
So one of the producers of this movie, William Allen, was attending a dinner party during the filming of Citizen Kane in 1941. And there was a Mexican cinematographer working on the film by the name of Gabriel Figueroa, and he told William about this myth of a race of half fish, half human creatures in the Amazon River. And Alan was basically just taking notes while he was relaying this story to him, and he just titled it quickly "The Sea Monster." And then 10 years later, he was further inspired by The Beauty and the Beast. And then he actually took the notes that he had from that dinner party and developed treatment for The Creature from the Black Lagoon, in which
Well, there you go.
Harry Essex and Arthur Ross, who actually wrote the screenplay for this movie, kind of ran from his treatment, and that's where we got The Creature.
All right.
Damn,
Yeah.
man. That's
From the Black Lagoon.
Thank you, Citizen Kane, in more ways than one.
Because so like the OG, like this is The Creature from the Black Lagoon, and it's like considered, a classic Universal monster now. The other one, so we had Dracula, we had Frankenstein.
right.
Those are
Wolfman.
definitely based off of like literary pieces.
Mhm.
Was The Mummy based off?
The Mummy
of
was just based
literary?
on their recent findings in Egypt because they had recently
Okay.
uncovered Tutankhamun, I believe. and it was
Okay,
a
so that
huge
was
fucking
like
deal.
So that was like the
That was just a
political
cultural
news at the
impetus,
time,
yeah.
And what about like Invisible Man?
I think that was just science. That was a book. Invisible Man.
Well, I feel like I know there's like a racial The Invisible Man that's about like a black man feeling invisible, but that's not the monster. Like that's a different thing.
That is a different thing. Yeah, it's
So-
it's H.G. Wells.
Okay. Yeah, goddamn, we're fucking terrible.
We suck.
So all right, so I wonder, like, is this like the completely most like original like Universal monster? Like, I know this guy heard about it at a dinner party, but other than that, like, it seems like they kind of crafted this.
It wasn't
whole-
based on a book or any like a short
Yeah.
story. or
even
anything.
the Wolfman is like that was a monster that had existed in storytelling
yeah,
in various ways.
Oh, okay.
many
that's kinda
myths and legends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Phantom of the Opera had been around forever. Yeah, all that shit's been done. Even the Bride was brand new, but that was an offshoot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't know. Yeah, I think this is the only one that came whole cloth out of somebody's brain.
out of
Interesting.
we need to make another movie.
Which explains.
Let's do it.
Yeah, that also kind of explains why it's like a little bit like light on lore.
Yeah, that's,
You know what I mean?
that's a pretty.
That
fair
might have
point.
something to do with it. This is
Yeah.
a more straightforward kind of monster movie because
Yeah.
the monster itself doesn't have like
Yeah.
time honored tropes or any established weaknesses or vices or anything like that. There's nothing established about this creature, so maybe that has something to do with why it seems so much thinner in its
Could
core
be.
than it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. The last piece of trivia that I would like to add to Justin's trivia segment is that director Jack Arnold also directed the majority of the Brady Bunch episodes, and in one of them centering about the boys raiding the girls' slumber party, Bobby Brady wears a creature mask.
Oh.
Wow.
There you go.
That sounds risque as fuck.
I don't. It's the Brady Bunch. I doubt
That
it.
Brady Bunch movie. What's that? I think it was the second one. I like these. Saw these movies so many times as a kid, and I recognize they're not very good. But
Yeah. Is that where they go to like Hawaii or something?
yeah, the one where they go to Hawaii and it's like a pastiche and all that shit. But the fucking relationship between Greg and Marcia troubled me as a child. I was like, this.
Dude, I think it troubled
be-
everyone.
I mean, that was the whole joke.
related.
But I was
They're
too young
not.
to understand that was the joke, and I was like, "What's happening? Should this be happening? Am I going
Really?
to hell?"
You gave me a cute Jay.
Am I going to hell for watching the Brady Bunch 2 or whatever it's called?
A very Brady sequel.
Oh, you were raised Southern Baptist, weren't you, Randy?
I sure was,
Oh,
man.
Randy.
Satan must be stopped at every opportunity.
See,
You're
that's
such a
how you drop a
prude,
bomb.
Randy.
Right there. That's how you do it. Nope. There you ruined it. Ruined it again. Cool. You know what time it is? It's time to go hunting for cooters.
Cooter of the week.
All right. Cooter of the week. Let's
Who you
hunt
got? Who you
these people that we call cooters.
Let's hunt these people.
I want to make it very clear we're hunting human beings that we call cooters. This
they're
is that's true. That's true. Thanks to Hydraberg. Hail Hydraberg. The cooter is a character type. They must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a cooter in the book of Cooter. Chapter 1. So saith
Forever and ever
Soju
amen.
exotic. I I need my own cult. So here, let's go through these. Manipulation. Speaking of cults, they need to be manipulative. Overall attire, the Cooter attire, look and/or attire. Sexual deviant can be one of the points you can hit. Overall patheticness, and the one I'm missing, arrogance, smug arrogance.
Well, to me, there's only really one character that I'm thinking of, and that's Mark.
It's Mark. Yeah.
It's Mark, right?
Hi,
So
Mark.
let's see if Mark hits enough of the spots here.
Let's see if he can get King Cooter for the win.
Mark, the ambitious scientist / businessman or whatever.
Self-important.
Who's, very smug, arrogant, very, very self-important.
Yeah.
That's pretty much a given. And in terms of this movie, he might as well be Satan in that regard.
One of my favorite parts about his touching on his smug arrogance is when they're all like, we got to go. Like he's killed several people. The monster's killed several people at this point. They're like, we got to go. There's only like 5 people left. And Mark tries to go out big dick swinging. It's like, you'll leave when I tell you to leave.
Yeah, he does.
But the boat captain just pulls a knife on
Lucas.
that bitch. He's like, I don't know who you think the fuck you are.
It's
son
like,
of a bitch.
Yeah,
This is my boat.
you ain't my boss, boo.
yeah. I love that shit. So I loved how his smug arrogance like just completely failed. And he got a knife.
I love that. And like everybody knows that you suck now. At this point. And what else did he do though? He like his attire is fine. Like
He's got
what he's doing.
Tiny little dagger shorts, which I guess are appropriate for what they're doing. But
daggers me on the dance floor.
I liked they do this. There's this little dialogue. We talked about a scene earlier where it's just Kay and the other red shirt doctor who gets his face all cut up. They're talking about essentially how Mark like uses Kay. And so you could use that as like a manipulation. I
what's
guess.
going on with that? Like there's some sort of implication that he wants Kay, but there's not there's a lot of telling and not a lot of showing. I mean, it's clear that he's resentful of David.
It also makes it seem kind of like this, like almost like this Tiger King situation where it's like this guy who's in power and he's using this like young, impressionable woman to essentially like she's a good scientist, but he's using her to like work really hard and to boost his like own program up, but to kind of like keep her down, like make her seem like she's not very important. That's like from their dialogue, because the guy's like, you need to know your own like self-worth, like you're a good doctor and or like a good scientist, and like, and I don't know, that's the impression I got from that whole back and forth.
I that whole thing to me just seemed like, well, these two have to have a conversation now because the creature has to escape and they have to be distracted. So get the lady in there and talk his ear off. It's the fucking bullshit. I don't know. It's like, to me, I don't know if he really strikes sexual deviance. Like he's maybe a little bit skeevy, but it's so much more implied than, I mean, I don't know. It's at most implied. It seems like.
Is he Cooter? Is he?
I don't know if he's quite a Cooter. I don't think he is. I think he's just overly ambitious dickbag.
Yeah, I want to make it work, but I don't know if I can.
Yeah, pathetic. Not really pathetic. I mean, maybe a few.
Not really pathetic. I would say the smug arrogance and then the manipulation are his two biggest ones. Bob said the dagger shorts.
He's got the dagger shorts, which I'll be honest.
I mean, that was the style of the time.
Yeah, it was kind of good.
I just want to have daggers on my body at all times.
He's always rolling around, no shirt, man. None of these dudes are popping shirts.
These are scientists who got back. They got their shit out. The sun's out. The guns are out. And this motherfucker. These scientists are not shy. And they even make a comment about David. It's like, oh, you don't look like a scientist. It's like, I know. People keep telling me.
It's because I'm a movie star, bitch.
Yeah. Big brains and big stains.
Yes.
It's Justin's autobiography.
Big brains, big stain. Thanks, Bob, for the compliment. I guess.
Yeah, whatever.
Add big money to that. You got your title.
It doesn't rhyme. Not gonna work. Sorry.
I guess
Cooter
he's not
free?
Cooter. I guess not. Yeah.
Cooter free.
There's nobody that really strikes it. The monster doesn't really strike. Everybody in this is like too square to be a Cooter.
Yeah, it's true. But it's hip to be a square, Randy.
Not in the 50s. You're a fucking loser. In the 50s.
Only if you. They didn't have Huey Lewis back then to spread the good news.
That was
Just
before
a bunch of L7 weenies.
That was before the good cocaine was available in the 80s.
It's like regular cocaine, but it makes you go real fast.
Damn.
Pew. All right. Cooter free. I think certified Cooter free.
Cooter free.
There we are.
All right.
Cooter free since 53.
All right.
4. But
We're really dedicating ourselves to rhyming this episode.
Don't we all? Hey, let's
It's our
talk
thing.
about some horror news.
Extra, read all about it.
It's time to read all about it.
Let's read all about it.
What do we got going on here? We got more movies that have been pushed back due to the ongoing COVID-19 global pandemic. We're not going to get any new releases this year. It's crazy.
What are we supposed to do? Watch these old films?
That is absolutely what we're doing. So
Yep.
we got two more titles here that have been pushed back. So Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Oh God, no!
Oh no, but Ghostbuster.
Oh,
What are we supposed to do?
Yeah, it was supposed to come out this summer. It's been pushed back to March 5th, 2021.
oh God!
Yeah, and Morbius.
Bustin' makes me feel good.
Next year, it certainly will. Sorry about your stains.
Sorry about your stain.
Sorry about your stains.
It's okay, man.
Morbius, which was, I guess, it's like another superheroes movie or something starring Jared Leto.
Jared Leto. He's
God,
a vampire.
I feel old. Some hero picture. I don't know.
Jared Leto should not make anybody feel old. Should make everyone feel young, because that dude is 1,000 years old.
So that got pushed back to
He's
March
an old motherfucker.
19th of 2021, and I guess they're also making a video game adaptation of Uncharted, which got bumped from March all the way back to October 8th of 2021.
Everyone's pretty much just going to pretend this like year didn't exist.
Yeah.
This year is just like on ultimate pause.
2020
Nope, everything just
canceled.
comes out a year later from whenever we intended it to come out.
Yep.
Hmm.
Also, if you
I don't know how to feel about that.
it just kind of is what it is, man. I don't know. There's not much to
Yeah,
what
what?
you can do to change it.
No, I just mean like the idea of like, fuck it, we'll just release it. Like we're just gonna sit on this movie until next year. Like I don't know. I don't know if I'm completely okay with that, or if I should be like, you guys need to release that shit on digital so people can watch it. I don't know.
Yeah, they're
If they do that, they're going to be charging $20.
Yeah,
and we know
they'd
how you feel
have
about
to.
that shit.
They'd have to. It's one of those things where you invest a certain amount of money in one of these bigger movies, like this fucking Morbius movie. I'm sure probably had like a $20 million budget or something at least.
Yeah.
And that's just one of those things where you're not going to see that return digitally, or at least in a normal situation, you definitely wouldn't. Maybe you would now because all movie theaters are closed and people don't really have a choice. But then again, paying $20 for a rental has people upset, understandably, because that's not the normal price point where you start out, generally speaking.
I guess I want this to, I guess kind of like if anything positive could come out of this situation, it's like I kind of want people to like start rethinking about how things can be done, I guess. So maybe this would inspire more lower budget independent films. Like not everything, like I almost kind of want them to take a hit so I don't keep getting the same gobbledygook bullshit I'm getting
that is
nonstop.
That's Blumhouse's MO. That's exactly what they've been doing.
Yeah,
for sure. I don't want everybody to do that because every once in a while you need some like crazy fucking Transformers movie or whatever.
Yeah.
Not that I like those
or
movies
I guess I just
particularly.
like I don't know, maybe it's like the anarchist in me just wants like Ghostbusters to fail. Like I wanted to be like,
Bustin' makes me feel angry.
I just wanted to see your house is built on sand, bitches. Like you keep exploiting us and holding us like by your chain, and we're not gonna take it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of agree with you, because a Ghostbusters sequel in 2020, like, who really cares? I don't want to see Finn Wolfhard in a damn Ghostbusters sequel in 2020. I don't want to see it.
Yeah, and I
But
don't want them to be like, oh, just a year later, and it's like,
A lot of people do, though, and if other people enjoy it, then fucking who cares? Let them enjoy it. I don't,
Let me tell you what to enjoy.
Sorry about your stains.
Soju Exotic. Join my cult now.
The cult of Exotic.
It is very bizarre indeed.
It is. Also, if you were planning on attending Popcorn Frights Film Festival here in Florida, it has been pushed back to October 1st through 4th of 2020, so it's still happening this year. It's just happening much later this year. So mark that in your calendar. What else is happening? What else we got here? So Stephen King, he wrote another book because that man doesn't know how to stop working, I guess. It's called If It Bleeds, and it was going to be released in May. I guess they pushed it forward because God knows people need more shit to read, and maybe Stephen King can help out with that. So I guess he's trying to. It's going to be released April 28th.
Is it a Predator novelization?
It's a collection of novellas.
Weird. It's just a weird title choice, because that is so, like, at least in my mind, that's so famously associated with the Predator. If It Bleeds.
What's that called? Oh.
If It Bleeds.
If It Bleeds is the name of the book, and that's, I don't know, maybe it's, I don't think it could be just me, but maybe it is. Immediately thinks of that.
Ain't got time to bleed. Or if it bleeds, we can kill it. Yeah.
And he should name his next book Sexual Tyrannosaurus.
Yeah.
I would read that so quickly.
I would read that one.
King wrote a book called Sexual Tyrannosaurus.
I'm a sexual Tyrannosaurus.
Damn, Steven. I just ordered 3 copies. Thanks.
Damn.
I be stroking.
He's going to ghostwrite Soju's biography, Sorry About Your Stains. That's what he's
So sorry about your stains.
I hope so.
Big dreams, big money, big stains.
Big stains. So yeah, it's a collection of 4 new novellas by Stephen King. They are Mr. Harrigan's Phone, The Life of Chuck, Rat, and If It Bleeds. Those are the 4 novellas. It's got a kitty cat's face on the front, so I'm sure it's about like an evil cat. Here, kitty, kitty. If you know what I'm saying. And I think
shudder.
I know what you're saying, Bob.
Also, if you're looking to pick up some physical media, I got a list of titles that are going to be out of print from Scream Factory.
It's not the time.
Save
for
it
that,
for the
Bob.
other cast.
This is the time. I'm going to do it.
Don't spend your stimulus check.
Where did Bob go wrong? Worrying his friends, sifting way too long through those Blu-ray bins, and it gets worse. He'll have no jet ski, wasting all his dough on those DVDs.
You just couldn't help yourself.
Speaking of jet skis, Bob, you ordered that jet ski months ago. It should have arrived at your house. Maybe the virus prolonged the delivery.
Whoever our in-house graphic designer is.
No, Randy should.
What do I have to do with jet skis that you buy, Rob?
I don't know.
Randy should definitely call the service that delivers the jet ski and see what the holdup is.
He should call Photoshop on his iMac and
call Photoshop on my iMac.
Photoshop, where's
Hey Photoshop, how's it going?
Anyways,
Bob knows how computers work.
I do. I got it. So yeah, if you want to buy some Scream Factory titles, buy these because they're going out of print quickly. And if you don't pick them up before they do, you're paying crazy eBay nerd prices, and nobody wants to do that. Candyman 2, Farewell to Flesh, going out of print. Supernova, going out of print. The Vincent Price Collection 3, going out of print. Phantom of the Opera from 1989, From a Whisper to a Scream. The double feature of TerrorVision and the video Dead. Prison Collector's Edition from 1987. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Poltergeist 2, Poltergeist 3, and Alienator, all going out of print. Get them while you can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob, for that PSA.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I'm doing my job.
All your podcasts are bleeding together, I suppose.
Yeah, it's true. It's tough out there for a physical media collector because
Boy, it sounds
Ooh,
nobody.
Man. Yeah,
nobody's
you're at the
a more
top of my
sympathetic
list.
victim than you guys.
It's
And you're fucking blue.
We need to support
I
you
need
guys
your sympathy
and your struggle.
Man,
God damn.
I'm just taking it day by day.
Yeah. Oh,
But day.
I don't know how you get through it, Bob.
Man, I don't know if I wouldn't have killed myself.
Except
by now, really.
I still saw that you still had like 6 Blu-rays come on Monday, even though it's so hard for you.
Man, sounds real hard.
I guess that's down from your normal 12. So, I can see where you're really struggling.
That well is dry.
I don't even have to say anything. You guys just shit on me back and forth. I don't have to give you any new material. It's incredible, really. Train keeps rolling. We do have a voicemail this week. If you are currently listening and would like to call in and leave us a voicemail to be played on next week's show, you can hit us up at 904-638-3231. We got a voicemail from our boy Hydraberg this week. Let's go ahead and hear what Hydraberg has to say. Here we go.
What up, fellas? It's your boy Hydraberg. I'm just calling in to weigh in on Rage Cat's coleslaw dilemma from last week. Your boy over here, I'm a deli guy, so I feel like I'm the best at answering this, best suited for answering this kind of question. Finally, I can, answer some kind of coleslaw or salad related question. I've been waiting my whole life for this. I recommend, depending on the meal, but most times coleslaw, it's a side. It's not like a side like mashed potatoes, though. That should be eaten along with the meal. You can, but it's normally something that's pretty good to just kind of eat right after the fish and chips, because the chips, that's the main side to the fish, right? And then the coleslaw is just like a little extra whammy on top. You know what I'm saying? And you can eat that. And some people don't even like coleslaw, but if it's made right, it's tasty. So I don't really have much more to say about coleslaw, but if you have any other needs about slicing meats or cheese or anything like that, you know who to call. Your boy, Hydraberg. You guys just keep chilling. And Rage Cat, just speak up a little bit more so I can hear you better in the voicemail, man. I couldn't hear you. But I made out the main dilemma. Love you guys. You too, Rage Cat.
Hello, gentlemen.
That's a Rage Cat. For reference.
Hello, gentlemen.
So you heard it here first.
That is not worried about a damn thing.
Except his coleslaw. I'll tell you one thing, man.
Hello, gentlemen.
So Rage Cat called in last week. He had a question that he posed. He said he's a segmented eater, and he wanted to know at which point during a meal do you eat the coleslaw? Do you eat it first before your main dish? Do you eat it after your main dish? How do you tackle this? We all had our own varying opinions. It sounds like Hydraberg has thoughts of his own. I guess probably just finish the meal with it. I say that shit is not worth your taste buds.
No, wow. If you have to finish it, throw it in the trash.
Throw it in the trash.
Damn. Just
don't eat it.
Toss it down the platform.
Give me the chips.
Do not leave your taste buds with the slaw taste.
And you guys, you heard it here first. If you have any meats questions, contact Hydraberg through us. Talk to us about your meats.
Yeah. We're a Hydraberg's agent.
I love that. I love
Hello, well, add it to your bump list, friend.
Man,
it's there. Where do you think it's coming?
Goddamn thing.
He's not. It's the most common I've ever heard in my life.
He's just pondering coleslaw.
If you're pondering coleslaw questions, your life is pretty sweet.
I wish we had that voicemail that I left Rickety Cricket from when the Popes were trying to get us when we were drunk. That would be a great bump for Randy.
Oh man, we'll find it.
That is hilarious. Hey, guy.
Call in with your meats question.
Don't call the police guy. That's our general advice to you, listeners.
Oh man,
I think they prefer sir.
No.
Hey, guy.
Hey, my guy.
Again, if you're listening and you want to call and leave us a voicemail to be played next week, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We're going to be back next week with a new show. We're going to do something we have literally never done before in the history of this show.
What are we doing?
Oh, my God.
We're going to be reviewing our first ever triple feature next week. Triple feature. 3 movies, 1 show happening next week. You're sitting at home. You're being responsible. Social distancing. Self-quarantining. You got time to watch 3 movies in 1 week. We know you do. So we're going to make good on something we've been talking about for far too long, actually. We're going to be reviewing the Blade trilogy.
Blade trilogy.
To give some context, because I know everyone needs it. This was a physical media purchase Bob just had to have back in July. Probably gone out of print or super cheap or something. And he's never watched it. Never taken it. He just had to have it. It's really
like the example of that, because there are many films that fit this description in Bob's collection.
Bob has many unopened packages on his shelf, but Blade trilogy, this was purchased by Bob back in July, and we are forcing his hand. We are making him watch.
It's the Chinese democracy of Rob's collection, and we're going to make him watch all of it.
Yeah, so we're going to make him watch and see, was it worth the purchase, Bob? Does he actually enjoy these movies? Probably not.
I do.
Really calling your shots there.
We'll see.
Probably not.
Tune in next week.
You'll find out soon enough. So until next week, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at STR8_chilling, on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you would like to join in on our Slack channel, our daily conversations on Slack, let me know through any one of those social media outlets, and I'll send you a link so you can join in on the conversations. We talk about the movie of the week, TV, music, news, video games, anything and everything we want to. I think that does it for us. Until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Hello, gentlemen.